Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. Just kidding, it's the Gare Bear, and welcome to another edition of the Gare Bear Review. But as you can clearly see behind me, a giant marshmallow man, we are going to go over Big Hero 6. Yes, unfortunately, Marvel, or fortunately, depending on your look upon Marvel, but Marvel is at it once again, proving to us that they are just not going to stop producing movies ever, just ever. And when you put one movie powerhouse with another movie powerhouse, let alone one that is specifically in the business of children entertainment, then I'm gonna have to tell you, get ready for a ride, my friends, because two powerhouses decided to have a baby, and this is what you're gonna get. You're gonna get Big Hero 6. And yes, if you don't know by now, or heard me correctly, Big Hero 6 is in fact actually a Marvel product. Yes, not a lot of people know this. Not a lot of people, because it's a kids movie, so they don't, and it's from Disney, so they don't really, it didn't really come full circle that it was actually a Marvel product. But yeah, it was actually a graphic novel or a comic book. I've only read the first issue, but it seems like the origin is a little bit different, like a tad, and but it's still the same story. It's still a story of five friends and their balloon robot companion Baymax. Now, what I found was interesting was Marvel kind of sort of stayed away from this, only for like a really small fraction, because usually it's because it's billed as Disney's Big Hero 6 and not Marvel's Big Hero 6. But that doesn't mean that Marvel didn't slap their mitts on in this film. Obviously, the comic book is Marvel's property, and Disney now owns Marvel, so they are allowed to use it. But I just found it interesting that like the company physically Marvel didn't want really, they didn't. I don't know if they had creative control or if they had rights to anything besides the actual physical characters and the story, but they didn't like bill it as like Disney Marvel's Big Hero 6 or Marvel's Big Hero 6, by Disney. They didn't bill it. They billed it just Big Hero 6. It just as a flat out movie, which I found was very interesting. And which honestly, even if it wasn't a comic book film, I actually have to say, on its own, it was actually pretty great. It kind of worked. It worked with this dynamic. It worked really well. The comedic timing was brilliantly done, and on point. I mean, come on, who doesn't love a good fart joke now and then? I know I don't. But it was actually, the comedy was great, and honestly, it was like part of it was one of my favorite aspects of this film. I also love, I everyone kind of sort of loves the whole group superhero dynamic, but obviously it was done, it's been done to death now that Avengers is out and all those other comic book completion movies that are coming out. But they do throw a couple of different pieces into this concept. One being they actually added a balloon robot superhero that has no feelings or any concept of what stuff is unless he actually physically downloads the solution. Now I know what you're gonna say. But Care Bear, they're doing a superhero group dynamic. It's been done to death. Yes, guy who thinks it's cool to interrupt. I get that. Don't worry, I do. But look, yes, it's another superhero dynamic, but it works to an extent where it's actually okay to have that. Because you add in the comedy, you add in the robot aspect. I know a few superhero movies that actually do have a robot dynamic, or just even a comic book. Actually, if you're like super into comics, there are robots involved with superhero dynamics. But again, it works, and the comedy helps out. The adding the character of Baymax helps a lot. The um the the whole film just worked around itself. It didn't really have a nucleus per se, like a center, a core that circles around. It basically took one point and they went around it and just basically chained into they took one point and they just basically went with it. they stuck with one and they continuously went throughout the whole entire movie. Now, granted, it is a kids film, so it's going to be a little on the less side. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, probably 47. I don't know, but like I don't know exact. But yeah, it's a very short film, and yes, it does have a extra credit scene, and it does have a cartoon in the beginning. Because again, it's Disney in the beginning and Marvel in the end. Baby, Big Hero 6. That's basically what you get. But look, not to mention, like I said before, there's certain pieces to that dynamic that that set it different from others. One actually being that it is a kids film, like I said before, so it's only slightly less dark than the usual superhero films that you'll end up watching as you grow up. And honestly, not to mention, if I don't know if you guys know this, but the same people, the producers and the creators of Frozen and Wreck-It Ralph, they actually did this. Yeah, so you're gonna end up with the same style of animation, which was awesome, and of course, they bring other aspects from those films as well. Um, and like those other animations, it had no distortion, no pixelation. It was clear cut. The hair was awesome. It was very flowy. It was a very clean style of animation, which I like. I always like that. It wasn't. I just hope that in the future it doesn't get too blocky, because I kind of see that happening. I've already seen it happen to shows on like Disney Channel. A couple. I end up watching, there's these shows that they have on Disney and on Nickelodeon, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the first Winnie the Pooh cartoon to come out like since the '90s. They end up having like a three-dimensional character instead of like that 2D drawn out animation, which well, considering I'm from the '90s, I'm a '90s kid. I enjoy that animation. I'm kind of a traditionalist that way, but it's too blocky by the end of it. By the end of the day, it's way too blocky, and it's really dumb that they're doing it that way. I just don't know why they just don't stick to that, or what they're doing right now. Actually, Big Hero 6, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, those had some really great animation points, features. So I enjoy that what they're doing with that. Again, I just hope it doesn't get too crazy. Look, I enjoy this film a lot. Obviously. Specifically the comedy. The cast helped a lot with it. You had Ryan Potter in the mix from Super Ninjas, if you don't know, from Nickelodeon's Super Ninjas. You also had Maya Rudolph. I mean, you had the guy who played the comedy relief, Fred. He was played by T.J. Miller, I mean, him and Baymax. Fred's character. T.J. Miller brought that character to life, and him and Baymax alone, who was played by Scott Adams, by the way. If you don't know who Scott Adams, he's a writer and producer of 30 Rock with Tina Fey, and he actually he did a lot of the SNL stuff too as well. But yeah, those two, their voices gave their characters like amazing quality to it, and I love both those characters. They were two of my favorites. Um, it's also it brings me unfortunately, this film actually really didn't blow away. It might have been great, but it was on the borderline of it was actually on the borderline of between like good and awesome. So it was like right there, great. It was great to watch. It had entertainment value, but again, it just didn't blow me away. It didn't have that wow factor that I was looking for. Look, It was very meh. I am recommending this film only because it's still a kids film, and it's still great for kids to watch, and for adults as well. As an adult, quote unquote, I actually did enjoy a lot of the adult humor to it. So make sure you guys see this film, check it out. It's actually really cool. I'm definitely gonna buy it on DVD because that was obvious. Uh, you know, I already have Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen, so might as well add this to the mix. Also, for you eagle eyes out there, make sure there are Easter eggs. Again, it's Marvel and Disney, so watch out for that. There is a Frozen Easter eggs. I'm hoping you guys catch that. I will give you a hint. Police station. That's it. That's all I'm giving you. And again, stay after the credits. Trust me, the last credit scene is awesome. As well is my channel, because you already know that. You're already here watching this. It's awesome. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys also stay tuned for our next adventure. our next one will be St. Vincent. Also, a special shout out to Victor Valdez. He's been a huge fan since, I guess, the beginning. He's actually been very vocal recently, so I just want to give a big shout out to that guy. Thank you so much, and thank you to all my fans who keep watching. Just stay tuned. Bye!